Hello everybody and welcome back. I am Mr. JP and today I am playing more Out of Ore. Yes. Big shout out to all the subscribers out there, thank you very much. It's insane how the numbers are changing. Really nice to see, so thank you all. Try and keep the content up to a good standard so that it's just pleasing. Thanks to all the new viewers who are coming in and subscribing as well. All the new guys, all the old guys. Big shout out to the USA. We've got Spain, France, Germany, UK obviously. There's a few viewers out there. So yeah, shout out to some fellow creators on YouTube who've been commenting, giving advice. Thank you for that. Appreciate it too. And so today, got the machine up and running. I was expecting it to run more stuff through than that considering what I was dumping, but okay. And over here, I've bought the grader, which is a nice little thing. I haven't really used it yet. I'll get round to it. So up at the top there, just quickly do this. For those who are unfamiliar, this is the map screen, and by clicking the rescue me button on the coal map, it's automatically set to the location we're going to. Just click confirm, and there we are. So this is running, and there's quite a lot of stuff coming through, which is backed up in the machinery, and there is a lot of stuff backed up in there. Things got a bit crazy with some blasting. So yeah, there it is. So drop back to that one, and we'll just tap to the... Here I'm tunneling, and as you can see, hit another coal seam. Got the loader in behind. So for those who are unfamiliar, tunneler, the big bane of tunneling is the collapses. That was well timed. Yeah, collapses are fun. You can build roofs into your tunnels and stuff, that works. But because I'm expanding this tunnel, I don't really want to do that, so I'm just going to have to put up the fact there's stonework going through my machinery. Spacebar activates the tunneler, which is a question I've been asked a couple of times. So you can see the belt running there, and the thing crawls at 1 kilometre an hour. That's tunneler active. And by sweeping the head left and right, you can dig a fairly big tunnel from quite a narrow entry point. It's a handy little device. This one's a square head version. There is a round head version that I actually prefer for detailing, as I call it. And because it's got a round head, it gives a nicer tunnel look if you want a raw tunnel. So yeah, they've got different advantages and disadvantages to them. They also make a nice yard loader if you've got piles. You can raise the conveyor up and down like this and load dumpers with it, which is one of the little things that I've done previously to this video in this world. That was in a former test world, because currently things are a bit quiet, which tells me that the dev's got something in store. So at some point I will be going a little bit quieter on my public mining and going back to some private stuff, which will be fun. I'm looking forward to that. And I'll be taking some feedback from the game that I've heard from players back with me, some feedback of my own from playing, and we'll see whether we can improve this game a bit, you know, bring it forward. Because the evolution speed of Out of Ore has been exceptional. Like, this can't big up the dev enough for this. The speed that he comes up with fixes and new stuff, like he rewrote the game in a couple of months, which for a one man with a bit of assistance from a few others is pretty darn impressive. And it would be impressive if it was a woman as well. I'm using man as a general catch-all there. My apologies for all of the gender-sensitive types. But I'm going to be honest, I'm doing my best. But I come from a generation where referring to yourself as anything like third person, yeah, that was classed as a ticket to the crazy house, people. Just saying, you know, it's kind of a difficult thing. But you know, I'm a pretty open guy, so I can handle it most of the time. Just don't get me started on it when I'm drunk. I don't drink, by the way, which is why it doesn't happen, but I know what would happen, and it wouldn't be a good day in the park, unfortunately. It's not that I have extreme viewpoints, they're just strong viewpoints. So yeah, over here I'm doing the upper table of the mine, and I've actually been ripping out conveyors, as you can see behind me. And I didn't quite realise just how many conveyors I've used. So I'll just sweep gently into this wall, get some of this out. Probably should put some more conveyor in there. So yeah. And where I'm putting the conveyor in, I've actually dug out from underneath with another loader so that there's no occlusion, nothing for the terrain to build up on when you dig. So yeah, in we go again. And I've been a little bit slack across the weekend, had a quiet weekend of it. So sorry for the lack of content, everybody, but I was lifing it and playing another game, getting my head out. Sometimes you just got to play something else for a bit to keep it fresh. It wasn't even worth filming. I was just starting a new game in Space Engineers, and yeah, pretty dull. But things hopefully will start to happen in that quarter at some point or another. So yeah. So digging this table out up here, I'm just hitting some pay dirt out because it's a bit of variety. I've got machines with wash plants and all of the trimmings, so all of the stone, all of the pay dirt, everything that comes out, and just goes straight down into these tables. They're virtually clog proof because they've been dug out from underneath. There's a few bits where there's terrain in them and stuff where they do clog. That's why they're not exempt from clogging. They do get lumps on them sometimes, and obviously where I've not built any at the end there, it's just all falling through in a crazy mass. But it's all to the good. It's all to the good. Game's running nice and smoothly. I've noticed there's sometimes a little bit of obviously lag on terrain reform, and if you get way too many of these voxel balls running around the map, it can get a bit manic. However, one of the ones that I have noticed is if you go into a wall like this, get a bucket full and jump out the truck, the load lock kicks in, and you can really load lock a bucket full. I mean really load lock. And once you've done that, when you back up and try and empty it, sometimes there's a little bit of a stutter that's for those of us that are used to games that crash when they stutter, it's kind of a nervous moment, shall we say. I wouldn't go as far as to say it was a 5p moment, but it's definitely a heart stopper, especially if you haven't saved in a while. Once again, high pollen count, so I apologise if I'm a little bit muffly, and yeah, still need to sort everything out to get my new gear on to see whether I can get rid of that feedback, which is frustrating. But we'll get there, we'll get there. Maybe some different recording software or something that gives me a bit more variety, but I'm just using all standard Windows stuff to do everything, so yeah, I'm not normally an advertiser for Microsoft, but yeah, it gets a beginner up and running pretty well. Because it's just all off the shelf, like everything is off the shelf that I use, and nothing special, all about 4 years old. Yeah, it's still going, still going. They're doing their best to make everything outdated and obsolete, so you have to upgrade and pay money, but yeah, we're working on it. Okay. Oh, there's the autosave. Must have been playing for half an hour already. So yeah, I did do some prep time before I came into this video. It obviously deleting those conveyor decks took a little while. So yeah, hope this still is recording my voice and there's not going to be a jump between them. But yeah, anyway, so autosave done, back into the slope, grab some more of this pay dirt out. Yeah, I did have a bit more cash, but obviously after buying a couple of other bits of equipment which are downstairs, the grader was one. I think I bought the 530. Yeah, it is the 530 excavator. So that's an annoying lump of rock in there. So yeah, I'm going to get down with the excavator in a minute. Once I've had a bit more of a dig out here. Just tidying up really. And you can see that I'm just like sort of running along the slope bit by bit, taking a chunk out, chunk out, chunk out. And that's because it's a habit. because when the terrain reforms, you don't really want to stick your bucket into it because it throws the vehicle around like crazy as it reforms under the bucket. So to avoid that, you want to cut sort of along slopes. So like here, underneath, I was just cutting at the end there, the terrain will be reforming where it fell through. So I will be better off cutting over here. And that flashing of the camera going through the floor above is one of the banes of working under these conveyor floors, which is why I'm trying to get away from it. But it's the same with the rooftop in a cavern, so no big deal. That's what I mean about the load log when it kicks in. You can really, really fill the bucket. Yeah, terrain reforming under the bucket there, but that's what I mean by load log. And that little bit of freeze and lag might not show up in the recording, however, it's there. But as you saw, that was a pretty big bucket full. You can really load it up, really load it up. So yeah, this is how I've been occupying my time. In this corner here is a very nice coal seam. As you can see, it extends quite extensively. So when the upper deck rips into that, it's going to be quite profitable as well, which is good. If you like a bit of coal, it is the coal plant after all. And down here, I just need to, I think, yeah, extend some conveyor. Yeah, when I was ripping out conveyors, by the way, I ripped out 1,500 of them. I've used a couple of hundred extending this into this coal seam and the upper deck there, but yeah, that's why they've got to go. I need to find a new way of mining that uses less conveyors, because in my opinion, just this is my guess, at some point every conveyor you lay is going to cost you like $1 a minute or something in maintenance. Ooh, that was bad. And when it does, it's going to be a nightmare to do these conveyor table sort of affairs. So it's going to force roleplay mining, I should think, is where I'm going with the conversation. Once we have upkeep for every item of production gear that you put down, that 180 million will have like a fair cut into it in running costs, and that won't go away. All the time this is built, it will be costing you money, so realistically you're going to have to get more efficient. Rio Tinto, I'm looking at you. So yeah, these things will, I should think, come, whether they come in the sandbox version of the game or whether that will be like the career mode, whether there'll be a ladder of maps to work your way through where things get more and more sort of hardcore. Some of the production gear needs working on. That's some of the suggestions that I'm going to be putting in that are from me myself. Anyone else who's got something they think really should be done to the game, like, you know, this is a priority for the up and coming sort of plan for development, do feel free to either leave a comment in my YouTube comments section, or go to the NMC Discord and leave it in there, because they're pretty good at reading them, and even if they don't get back to you, they have read it. I can personally testify that those guys are doing that. You might get an answer from me, who knows? But yeah, there's a few guys who know the game pretty well. They've all got thousands of hours in it, and they're answering questions for free on the Discord. It's a resource you should use, blatantly. So yeah, been digging in down here, and you can see all of that stuff there is that fall through from above just built up on front of that ramp. Some of it looks quite rich, but I'm not convinced. Yeah, if you lift the wheels of the loaders up, or any of the vehicles, they tend to stop cutting, by the way. Consider tracked vehicles to have a wheel at the front and the back too. I think that's how they're modelled at the moment. It's probably going to change, but currently seems like essentially the bulldozers are operating like a skid steer loader. Likewise the excavators. JCB fast track just going by from the local farm, gotta love that. Shaking the building. Man, did JCB annoy the truckers when they put a fifth wheel on the first fast tracks. Oh, that was fun. Yeah, something to do with UK law, and the fifth wheel connection makes it a truck, so you need a truck license. So yeah, a lot of people bought them and were using them like that until they closed that loophole in the law. Yeah, so that was back in the fun days of like the late 90s, early noughties, when everything was a bit more free and easy. Like, people used to say that about the 60s, but these days it was like 10, 20 years ago. Jeez. I mean, you could be a daredevil and ride a bike without a helmet and not get caught on camera. I'm talking motorbike, not push bike, obviously, by the way. Road safety campaigns actually had some zip because they weren't afraid of offending people. Yeah, a few things like that. I miss it in a way. Yeah, I agree, some of the stuff was a bit much. Not everywhere was very nice. Still not, though, that's the thing. You know, there hasn't been any great improvement on a worldwide basis, but locally things have definitely become a little more liberal in places, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. A little bit more tolerance, a little bit more understanding, a little bit more of that. Might be a few less violent places in the world. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so digging. That's what we're doing. And on the subject of digging, it's probably time to move on to the excavator. Sorry, I meant to move on to the excavator a lot earlier, but I just got kind of into what I was doing and opening that up there. So here we are, excavator time. So yeah, using the excavators can be a bit of a laugh. Steering and manoeuvring them can also be a bit of a laugh on rough ground. I kind of like using them on floors because it's nice and smooth, looks good. So I'm going to position myself this way round because that's the way I want it. About there. Okay, switch to the keyboard, and here we go. Helps if I use the right keys. Right, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Now, I don't use excavators much, I'm not very familiar with them, so this could be a little bit of a mission, but we'll see how they've come. Oh no. No, 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 no. Okay. Not liking the looks of that. Let's try it there. Okay. Judging from the looks of the amount of material I just cut, compared to the hole and the amount dumped, excavators are for digging holes. They're not that good for production, and they're definitely not going to be good for loading dozers. Look at that. That's interesting. This may need work, or I'm using it wrong. I might be using this wrong. Let's see how this goes. Let's try it just on bucket car. That didn't get much really either. Okay. So if you want to dig a hole, I think these are the tools. But if you want to actually make some money, I think you should forget about these for the moment. Really do. Front scoops might be a better option. But yeah, admittedly I am scraping along concrete there. So there isn't much material to grab. Let's go out here. I'm sorry, with a 3-ton bucket, I would have expected to have gathered 3 ton in a scoop like that. So Yeah, okay. For my purposes at the moment, that is a no-go. So we'll forget that. So that is going back in the garage. So you go to the map and you go to 530 and you send it to the garage like that. Click, it's gone from the list. Don't have to worry about it anymore. Go back to this. This is why I've ended up on loaders. Without dumpers, without anything into conveyors, it's because it's the way to do massive mining in the game. Like, it's just the way to play if you want massive profits at the moment. And these conveyor tables work if you only keep them quite narrow. Like, they don't have to be the width of this bottom one. I am going to take a lot of that width out because most of this is not being used. I'm decided to attack this front edge of this corner, and the reasons for that will become obvious in a sec. Just need to take out a bit more material. I honestly thought the excavator was going to be a bit more effective than that, but there we go. Now this, pushing stuff into these trenches, is a very effective way of doing business, by the way. You can do it with a bulldozer, you can do it with a loader. It doesn't really make a lot of odds, but I find the loader's better because you can pick up what you've pushed rather than running it over and having it despawn under you and disappear, or throw the dozer around like what happens. But the dozer is very good at clearing stuff off the surface. If it comes up against a high wall like this cliff face, it will give you a problem. In fact, it will just come to a halt. Whereas a loader, you can skim the bucket across a cliff face like this and just, yeah, okay, bam. I didn't like that bit. Away it goes. You just the ability to just change your mind and go in high like that with a loader is just the reason I prefer them to the dozer for clearing surfaces. They've got a much more adaptable blade. When we get the 8-way dozer, that'll be kind of cool. Be able to offset the blade like a snowplow to one side or the other and just drive along and pile stuff up into heaps. That'd be kind of handy. They also do loaders with blades like that, so that'd be kind of cool if they come. So what I'm going to do is my old school method of just scrape away at this. Occasionally go along the joints of the conveyors like that, just skim them, and it'll keep them cleaned out, because it does build up at the joints, it seems to be, on the ends between the conveyors rather than in the middles. So if you're building hoppers and stuff, try and dump them into the middles of the conveyors rather than on the ends. That can be quite helpful. Likewise, when using loaders at building hoppers, try and dump it in the middle rather than on the ends if it's a conveyor hopper rather than the actual designed hopper in the game. Nothing wrong with the designed hoppers in the game, but for this purpose, the material sticks through. There's a lot of manual digging out, and I'm trying to avoid using the manual digging tools because I'm going to abuse them a bit later on. So I'm just trying to roleplay it a little. But the performance of that excavator in this ground wasn't that hot. So go try some other things out for what I'm doing here. See how that works out for me. Might involve getting a driller up here. The tunnelling with the round head. That might do the job quite nicely. Yeah, just literally push stuff out like this, down and into that hole for a bit. And bearing in mind this is the 1600 loader, so it's a little bit smaller than the other ones I'm using up to the other end. A little bit more manoeuvrable, a bit less inclined to get caught on terrain and objects. For pure manoeuvrability, you want one of the 500 or 300 series ones. They're the manoeuvrable beasts. They go over rough ground a bit better. Also, when steering, they don't tend to get hung up against rock faces as easily. So they still do, but not as bad. So let's see if I can get in here now. Okay, that's looking a bit more hopeful. Stay stationary for a second or two, and that should engage the load lock enough so that I don't get massive amounts falling off the bucket and collapsing in. So that's one of the strategic things you can do with these machines. Likewise, the excavator bucket can do it. There we go. Sorry, concentrating on getting that edge in square as I could there. Yeah, you can see that hopping around on the vehicle. That's the material popping back into shape underneath the blade there that I was saying about. Good thing about using this smaller one is that little bit of stutter when you unload from the load lock is it's a little bit less. So if you're using an older machine or if you're finding your graphics card doesn't agree with the game, using the smaller equipment, not producing too many of these voxel balls in your machinery and that kind of thing, it can be a very good way of limiting the amount of load on your machine, like on your PC, and so therefore giving you a bit more of an acceptable gaming experience. So it's more about smoothness really, but I'm going to be honest, from what I can tell, I mean my machine's, it's not potato, but it's not exactly modern, and it's running the game really quite well, considering, you know, a little bit of craziness with terrain reform on occasion, but yeah, it's pretty good. So that's opened that area up quite nicely. Let's go in and go over how I do these, and yep, the double run's in place there, so we can just step these out like that. If it doesn't collapse and rebuild the terrain I've just dug out, you schmuck. Swear to God if I ever get hold of the dev for doing that. Fine. Use the manual tools again because of the stupid freaking collapses that you can't turn off. Like, I wouldn't mind the collapse mechanic if it actually brought down the overhanging ceiling. That would be better. But I'm an engineer, so I'm going to prefer stuff like that. One of the nice things about 7 Days to Die in the construction is if you build out too far or you mine a cavern too big, certain blocks are actually collapse worthy and will fall down on you, which is kind of cool. A little bit of realism that I like in a game. Don't get me wrong, anti-realism is also useful on occasion. There's definitely something going on with this. Oh, that's because that's a conveyor. Helps if you use the hopper. So yeah, this process is, you know, rinse and repeat really. So yeah, get some short runs in. Get in here with the loader. Tidy it up a little. And so yeah, this pushes the mining table forward and then push away from the sort of the drop canyon into the hillside. But as you can see, there's an awful lot of coal in that seam there that I should really be digging out. So I'm going to have to change sides, which is why I've started ripping out these conveyor tables, because running conveyor tables into both sides can be a bit of an annoyance, and it can cause some glitching. In the fact that if you've got both sides running, it tries to overlay voxels in the middle and they ping everywhere. And you know, there's no problems with how the game runs when it's doing it. It's pure madness of voxels everywhere. It causes a bit of lag, so I tend to avoid it if I can. So a bit more space there. Take that out. Also piles it up. You can see it's starting to get dingy. That's because it's coming on to evening in my game, and I've got the daytime set pretty long, but the nighttime set pretty short. So I don't work at night. I'm gonna be honest. I like it. I like the look. I like the feel. I like everything about it, but it is a pain in the neck. And judging from the speed that the fans on my graphics card start to turn, it's quite a lot of work in shadow generation, I think. So for sheer niceness, I tend to like working in sunny daylight. Also, it's coming to the end of the summer in the UK, and that means that we're going into the 4 months of darkness. And yeah, darkness bad, basically. Darkness bad. So I'm just going to reset it to like 7 o'clock in the morning, clear sky. And as you can see, the sun comes around in the sky and things. This mine is big enough that, much like other games, the daylight penetrates the end of it, even though it's sealed. But I don't mind, because there are a couple of air holes over there. You would get a certain amount of light through. So, you know, it's fine. It's not like this is Uncle England 600 metres under the ground. Once you get down a bit more into sealed small tunnels, that effect is probably a lot more annoying. But at night, it doesn't show, of course, because it's dark. So if you want a true tunnelling experience with very dark tunnels underground, you want the long night, short day setting. Just depends what you want to do. Currently, because there's not much form and structure to the game, roleplay is where it's at. It's whatever you want to do with the game, really. Whether constructing a big base is your thing, whether mining out big holes like me is your thing, whether strip mining and removing as much surface terrain and pay dirt is your thing, really. Pay dirt's easier to dig than this rock stuff. Rock is a pain in the neck, like it seriously is. Gonna be honest. But blasting's key. Level 22, get there, job done. Rock will no longer be your nemesis. It currently is for a friend of mine. Dug down, got all excited, was like, "Oh yeah, it's stonework," and then realised it was still level 21. Couldn't unlock explosives. Funny as hell. Sort of. I tried not to laugh in his face, but yeah. One of those moments where you just decide where you're working in the roleplay mode to drive away, find a seam somewhere else, and pothole the top of it out with a loader, and get the money. Get level 22, get the explosives, and go back to what you were doing. That would be my solution to the problem. It was how I solved this one. This all started up on the top plateau where there's a lithium seam. I cleared the loan and got all of the money I needed to build all of this equipment out of that lithium seam. You know, I never needed to touch anything down here for profit. It was purely all to get the level ups and stuff going. So yeah, just as I say, the game is adaptable. It depends how you want to play. How you beat the loan and level up system at the start of the game is up to you, or even if you want to, because like if you're sort of role playing with the smaller machines, leveling up isn't that important other than the explosives. Level 22 is probably the one for any player who wants to go anywhere near stonework needs to get to, or for, you know, if you're doing big open cast mining, you might want the explosives for clearing off the earthwork on the top in a faster method. Not everyone's got hours to play, like someone who's sat waiting for the NHS to tell him exactly what the hell went on and why he's not allowed to do stuff, because I kind of want to get back to my life, you know. But YouTube's becoming sort of my life, so as I say, that's why all you subscribers out there and viewers mean so much, really, because currently there's not a lot else in my life. That's going to change, but until then, don't get me wrong, I have quite a dodgy home life, in fact there's a lot of stress going on, and ill people and being a carer and stuff, But other than that, for me, like the things I wanted to do in my dreams are all on hold, pretty much until I know where I'm at, and then they either go in the bin and I start a new life, or I mean, after 2 years, you'd have thought maybe I should start a new life anyway. But I'm going to be honest, kind of liked my old life, kind of good earnings, kind of short hours, and I'd like to go back to maybe some of it. That'd be good. But enough of my gripes. Back to Out of War. Well, Out of War's kind of like my life. In fact, I just keep digging. Just keep digging, just keep digging, like Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. Yeah, just keep digging. That's the secret of Out of War. Just keep digging, and then eventually you'll end up with a whole F-ton cache, like I've got up there. Yeah, so that's extended that table a little bit. So I'll part that one up. Get back over here and have a quick look at what's going on. Bit of gravel coming out, bit of coal coming out. Yeah, reasonable amount of this kind of stuff. That's cool. But not anything to really write home about coming out of there at the moment. So change that up. Let's change that up a little. Let's get some nice stuff out again. I just love the way this looks when all the machines are running pure coal. It's brilliant. Coal mixed with gravel, you can't separate at the moment. It needs addressing, because it's quite nice to make pure coal surface roads or pure coal gravel surface roads. However, you can get close if you dig coal that's not mixed with stone, so out the top surfaces, then you can get pure coal. Just depends how you arrange your production equipment, really. There's probably three or four different ways of arranging production equipment to do different sort of outputs, and there's a way of arranging a massive one to do different outputs on different piles and stuff. I haven't quite figured it all out yet. I don't think anyone in the testing department kind of has. We've all got how we build machines and how we use them, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the development on the production equipment. It's one of the sides of the game that I think shows great promise, along with having things like the coal plant. If we've got a coal plant, we need one that only gives you like XP for gold, one that only gives you the XP for coal, and maybe a lithium electric battery plant for the lithium. Yeah, that's kind of good, because you'd be able to get rid of magnetite there as well, because that's needed as iron for batteries or something. Yeah, just have a battery plant. That'd be a good one. Battery factory. Though, judging from the problems that the lithium polymer batteries are having at the moment, a good battery factory might not be a bad idea. But the insurance overhead on the location is going to be huge for fire and explosions. There we go. Kind of funny. Everyone talks about, oh, electric cars, electric trucks, electric this, electric that. Great, but until you can stop the batteries exploding in accidents, you're never going to stick one on the front of a fuel tanker. Just a thought, you know. Everyone's worried about the hydrogen in a car exploding in an accident, and you've got a lithium polymer battery. Guys, it literally, like, when it's ruptured, generates hydrogen. Now there's an idea. Apparently recycling lithium polymer batteries is quite kind of difficult, which probably means it's actually just too expensive to do or something. However, I mean, why not just ignite the batteries and run the exploding hydrogen through a turbine and generate electricity for everybody's houses out of the old batteries? It's like the most expensive way of generating electricity in history, but you know. But you really got to retrieve the lithium. It's such an expensive resource to find. It's like all the lithium being used in all the disposable vapes that are going in the bin. It's like you think, yeah, oh god, that's like irreplaceable materials being chucked away. 100 years time they're going to be going through our waste piles like, why did they throw all this lithium away? Why did they throw all of this? And just reprocessing the lot. But making our next generation clean up our mess, that's poor practice for, you know, a race that's as much, shall we call it, top predator on the planet as we are. And I don't mean that in a, oh, we can hunt everything, aren't we, hard top predator way. I mean it in the fact we are the top of the chain. There is no life form on the planet that is as dominant as we are in every environment and divorced itself from nature like we have. The apes have come close, but no cigar, in the fact that they're not living in caves yet, just based on how we developed. So yeah, to be fair though, I think tool use and greater society is within reach of the great apes. They're smart enough. They have the brain capacity. They've proved it. For all we know, they're the descendants of a society passed down through oral tradition that remembers the last time they ruined the world. Yeah, that's why we sit in the trees and eat these there. This is the only way to do it without turning the place into a fiery hell, don't you know? But yeah, who can say? There were philosophers a couple of 100 years ago who wrote that the only reason apes don't talk is because they're worried humans will put them to work. Which I thought was quite an interesting one. If nothing else, it shows a certain human viewpoint more than anything about the apes. But yeah, thought it was quite funny. Can't remember who it was. I think it was one of the researchers involved with it in the early 1800s. But yeah, I mean, there's still sign language using apes running around in zoos and stuff. So yeah, they can learn our language, but we haven't learnt theirs. So who is smarter? It's an interesting question. Interesting question. Morning's running on. Here I am playing games and I need to be doing stuff, really. Really should be doing stuff. Also, I was meant to be cutting pure coal. What was I thinking? Going into rock over here. Now I've hit out an awful lot of pure coal in the last few sessions. As you can see, I've dug my way through all of this. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't been seeing that much at the top of the conveyor. It's all been gravel. I'm wondering how backed up that conveyor up there actually is. Because a lot of stuff has gone through and it's never really caught up in a long time. Kind of curious about the two different coloured types of coal that I'm seeing in the balls coming out. I don't know if that's different textures or whether that's coal mixed with platinum or magnetite or something like that. So maybe putting a scoopful of this straight into a storage box and seeing what's actually in it would be a good idea, but yeah, keep on digging, keep on digging. Only way forward, just keep on digging. There we go. Get some more conveyors in. That's what I mean by loads that lock. That was a big load. sure I've got some more conveyors in there. And it just disappears into the floor. It's so easy! Like, making massive amounts of profit this way is very lazy. However, it does prevent the game lagging from massive amounts of stuffing dumper trucks. So yeah, it's got its purpose. It's got its purpose. I'm going to get into that lump of rock without a bit of explosive shenanigan, so leave it alone. Why waste time? It's not what I want to be digging. I want this coal. What am I thinking? Going near rock again. Oh yeah, add a piece of coal attached to it, that's what I was thinking. But a pathetic amount when compared to what I'm digging into over here, so... You saw the machine kick just then, that was the back end catching that sidewall. What I was saying about these big machines, the model actually has invisible bits sticking out of it still. After all, we are in early access, and it's a little bit ropey when it gets in close to cliff faces, but yeah, no, I can live with it for the massive amount of stuff that it can dig out in a few seconds. Definitely can live with that, for sure. So yeah, I really am in love with these bigger loaders. They're brilliant. They're just so effective at what they do. Best bit of the updates, in my opinion, was the big loaders. Really brought back something to the game for me. Tunnelers were fun for a bit, but these really are the schniz, shall we say. In there. Struggling a little bit because I'm skimming the edge of the rock. There we go, got in there now. So yeah, the seam's starting to edge off toward the left hand side there now. So it's starting to get into the back end of it, which is kind of cool because it means once this is dug out I can move this loader down to the far end and start using it to excavate the start of the conveyor runs, and we'll get into going along that tunnel a bit more. Get into the hill side a bit more as well, get in a bit deeper. Because effectively, as you go into the side of a hill in this game, because of the geology, you're technically going downwards, because the geology of the floor has effectively risen up. Think about it like up thrust. You've got a flat tablecloth, something sticks up through it. If that tablecloth was three-dimensionally thick, like a foot thick, the stuff that was 12 inches from the top of the surface is now level with you at surface level at the start of the hill. You see what I mean? It's gone up a foot. So as you go into the hill, you're going downhill, because the terrain is formed that way now. So yeah, I need to go around with the roller and sort some of that out. Definitely need to delete some more conveyors, which can take a little while. Just blast a bit more of this whilst I'm here. And yeah, I overdose with explosives, by the way. Sort of like part of who I am. So yeah, don't let me organise a fireworks display, whatever you do, or, well, unless you want something good, in which case let me organise your fireworks display. So yeah, having processed all of that little lot, go over to here. Planning to gravel this area out the front. There's a coal seam just there that I'm going to be digging into, but this area here is going to be vehicle handling, so yeah. There's some development work to be done. I need to get a roof onto this place as well. Not a bad concentration of coal coming out there now, you see. And that's what I mean by getting my coal on, is that. I love it. I love watching that roll in. I just find it so therapeutic. And it's pretty satisfying. That will roll for a while. There's not much coming out in the other feeds, however. So yeah, that's because of the lack of stone going through the fractioners. That's why there's not much rich stuff coming out. And the lack of gold is pure no pay dirt going through, so what do you expect? So yeah, just rescue me to the top here. This is what I mean. You saw the amount of coal going in there. There's no coal, it's all gravel. So I'm still a long way back in the processing at the top here. So just as a final thing, this is the map of the coal plant. I'm centered on the top of the conveyor hopper, and if I zoom out, the entrance to the mine is where the roller is, which is just about there on the edge of the map. So if I move it over, zoom in a bit more, just trying to get the area I'm digging sort of centered about there. So tunnelers are over here, and they're actually past the coal seam now. The only reason I'm continuing to dig is because up here I'm pretty sure there is more stuff. I think these darker bits indicate higher areas as well. We'll see how that is. So yeah, that's where I'm currently at on the push through. So I've got a fair amount of distance to catch up over there. And then down here is where these other loaders are, and they're on the other side of the hill. There's a lot more to this by the looks of things than meets the eye. So it's going to get fun. It's going to get fun. A lot more material going to be coming out of there. And this is why I want to be able to separate out the coal and gravel. I want the gravel coming out of there and the coal coming out of there, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, get some gravel tipping out down here. Start spreading it out maybe with the grader. See how that goes. Yeah. So we've stopped tipping coal in at this hopper, and there wasn't any coming out of the top, which shows there's an awful lot somewhere in that system. It's going to be interesting to see whether that ever stops flowing during my gaming. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. If you managed to get this far through an hour's worth, well done. Big thank you again to all you guys who are liking and subscribing and getting involved. Loving it all, loving it all. It's sunny, so I'm probably going to get myself up and do some stuff. So yeah, enjoy the day, look after yourselves everybody, and have fun in your mines. Stay safe. Bye for now.